There's a truth most men never realize. Sometimes a woman doesn't pull away because she feels nothing. She pulls away because she feels too much. She wants you badly, and that desire scares her more than rejection ever could. When a woman feels herself losing emotional control, she doesn't move closer. She creates distance. She becomes colder. She sends mixed signals that make no sense unless you understand what's really happening beneath the surface. And this is why so many men walk away at the worst possible moment. Not because she lost interest, but because she was just beginning to feel it deeply. If you've ever wondered why she opens up, then disappears, why she feels close one day and distant the next, why she looks at you like you matter, but acts like you don't, this video will change how you see all of it. Because when a woman is fighting her own feelings, every behavior is a signal. And if you misread those signals, you don't just lose her, you lose your position. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about chasing, and it's not about forcing clarity. This is about understanding female psychology at a level most men never reach, and learning how a grounded, self-controlled man responds when desire and fear collide. By the end of this video, you'll stop second-guessing yourself. You'll stop reacting emotionally. And you'll finally understand what it means when a woman wants you but is fighting everything inside her to resist it. Let's begin with the foundation. The real reason strong attraction feels dangerous to her in the first place. Here is a truth most men are never told. And once you hear it, you can't unsee it. Strong emotions don't feel romantic to a woman. They feel dangerous. When a woman begins to feel something intense for a man, her first reaction is rarely excitement. It's fear. Not fear of him as a person, but fear of what those emotions might do to her sense of control. And this is where most men get everything wrong. They look at her mixed signals and tell themselves comforting stories. She's just confused. She doesn't know what she wants. She's emotionally unavailable. That interpretation protects the man's ego, but it completely misses the truth. She isn't confused about you. She's conflicted about herself. Because what she's experiencing isn't uncertainty. It's internal resistance. A collision between desire and self-preservation. When attraction is mild, it feels safe. It's playful, contained, easy to manage. But when attraction is strong, it feels like surrender. And surrender means risk. Liking you deeply means you now have influence over her emotional state. It means her mood can shift because of you. It means she might care more than she planned to. It means she could get hurt. And here's something most men never realize. Women don't fear rejection as much as they fear emotional dependency. They fear losing control of themselves. They fear needing someone. They fear becoming vulnerable before they feel ready. So when her feelings grow stronger, her nervous system reacts before logic ever gets a chance. Her brain doesn't ask, "Do I like him?" It asks, "What happens if I let this continue?" That's when the resistance begins. She pulls back after moments of closeness. She goes quiet after deep conversations. She creates emotional distance right after things feel real. From the outside, this looks like loss of interest. Psychologically, it's the opposite. the stronger the connection feels to her. The more pressure she feels to regain control. Her mind hits the brakes because her emotions are accelerating too fast. This is why the idea that she's just confused is so misleading. Confusion implies randomness, chaos, uncertainty. What she's experiencing is actually very structured, very predictable, very human. Her emotions are moving forward. Her fear is pulling her back. That push-pull isn't about you doing something wrong. It's about her trying to stabilize herself internally. Think about what intense attraction really means for her. It threatens her independence. It challenges her emotional boundaries. It introduces vulnerability she didn't plan for. And vulnerability, especially for women who value control, feels like standing on the edge of a cliff. So she does what the human brain always does when it feels overwhelmed. It creates distance. Distance feels safe. Distance restores control. Distance gives her space to breathe. This is why she may act colder than she feels. Why she may downplay the connection. Why she might pretend she's less invested than she actually is. Not to manipulate you, but to regulate herself. And here is the frame shift that changes everything. She is not pushing you away. She is pushing herself back. She's not resisting you. She's resisting the part of herself that wants you more than she's comfortable admitting. Most men never see this. They take her behavior personally. They react emotionally. They either chase her for reassurance or withdraw completely out of wounded pride. And both reactions kill attraction. Chasing confirms her fear. It tells her closeness equals pressure. It tells her that if she lets herself fall, she'll be overwhelmed by emotional demands. So she retreats even further. Total withdrawal confirms her defense. It allows her to tell herself she was right to protect her emotions in the first place. That the connection wasn't real. That she dodged something dangerous. What actually works is something far more rare, emotional stability without pursuit. Not indifference, not coldness, but grounded presence. A man who doesn't demand clarity. A man who doesn't need constant reassurance. A man who doesn't collapse when she pulls back. That kind of steadiness sends a powerful, subconscious signal. I am not shaken by uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly what she's struggling with. When you stay centered while she's internally conflicted, your calm becomes contrast. Your composure becomes safety. Your lack of pressure becomes permission. Permission for her nervous system to settle. Permission for her emotions to surface without fear of being forced into something she's not ready to face. This is the paradox most men miss. The more emotionally stable you are, the safer it feels for her to stop resisting. The less reactive you are, the less she needs her defenses. And this leads to the core truth of this chapter. A woman who is fighting her feelings is not testing how much you want her. She's testing whether you can remain yourself when she can't. She's watching how you handle uncertainty, how you respond to distance, how you carry yourself when things are unclear. Because only a man who stays grounded feels safe enough for her to stop fighting what she feels. And once you understand this, you stop misreading her behavior. You stop panicking at distance. You stop chasing clarity. You stop taking things personally. In the next chapter, we'll break down the specific, Observable signs that reveal when a woman is actively fighting her feelings for you. Not vague theories, but clear behavioral patterns. And one of them is so counterintuitive that most men interpret it as rejection and walk away right when attraction is actually at its peak. And that's where everything usually falls apart, unless you know what you're really looking at. When a woman is fighting her feelings, her behavior doesn't become clearer. It becomes inconsistent. One day she feels warm, present, emotionally open. The next day she pulls back, replies less, creates distance, not because her interest disappeared, but because it suddenly became too strong. This cycle repeats itself. Connection pulls her in. Fear pushes her away. Most men read this as instability or loss of attraction. In reality, it's emotional recoil, her nervous system trying to regain control after getting too close. And that's why one of the strongest signs appears right after moments of depth. Whenever you share a meaningful conversation, whenever there's emotional intimacy or a moment where the connection feels undeniable, she suddenly needs space. She becomes busy, less available, less responsive. This is not rejection. This is self-protection. Depth creates vulnerability, and vulnerability feels risky to someone who hasn't decided whether they're ready to feel this much. When you trigger emotions she hasn't accepted yet, distance becomes her way of calming herself down. Men usually make the worst possible move here. They chase. They push. They try to fix the distance. And that pressure confirms her fear. Another signal shows up not in what she says, but in how her body betrays her. Her words may sound unsure, neutral, even dismissive, yet her body leans in. She mirrors your movements. Her eye contact lingers a second too long. The mind resists. The body reacts. Attraction leaks out physically because the nervous system doesn't wait for logic to approve it. Many men listen only to her words and ignore what her body is already admitting. Then there's a strange shift. She starts mentioning other women, not aggressively, casually. Curious questions, light jokes, subtle comparisons. She isn't trying to friend-zone you. She's checking her emotional position without exposing herself. This is subconscious, mate guarding. She doesn't want to claim you, but she doesn't want to lose you either. Jealousy feels safer when disguised as curiosity. As the tension grows, her behavior sharpens. The teasing increases. Sarcasm appears. Playful jabs replace softness. This isn't disrespect when it's selective and light. It's controlled intimacy. Teasing allows her to stay emotionally engaged without fully surrendering vulnerability. It keeps the connection alive while preserving her sense of control. At the same time, she starts remembering things she logically shouldn't. Small comments you made weeks ago, random details, minor preferences. Attention follows emotion. When feelings intensify, memory sharpens, even when she claims not to care. Politeness doesn't store emotional data. Attraction does. And, finally, there's the nervous energy, but only around you. She fidgets, overthinks her responses, laughs differently, becomes unusually self-aware in your presence. This isn't discomfort. Comfort doesn't create nervous energy. Importance does. Strong attraction heightens self-consciousness because now your perception matters more than she's ready to admit. When you step back and see the full pattern, one truth becomes obvious. She isn't resisting you. She's resisting herself. And the calmer, more grounded you remain, the safer it becomes for her to stop fighting what she feels. Because in the next chapter, we'll talk about the most dangerous sign of all, the one that looks like rejection, feels like disrespect, and causes most men to destroy attraction at its peak, simply because they don't understand what it actually means. This is the moment where most men lose her. Not because attraction disappeared, but because attraction became too intense and triggered a defensive reaction. When a woman starts to feel something she didn't plan to feel, something that threatens her emotional control, her psyche looks for a release valve, and one of the most counterintuitive releases is this: she gets mean. Not openly cruel, not obviously hostile, but sharper, colder, more dismissive, sometimes even disrespectful, at least on the surface. This is where weak men panic and reactive men self-destruct. To understand this phase, you need to understand reaction formation. Reaction formation is a psychological defense mechanism where a person expresses the opposite of what they actually feel, because the real feeling feels unsafe, overwhelming, or unacceptable to them. Attraction creates vulnerability. Vulnerability threatens control. So the mind flips the script. Instead of softness, she shows hardness. Instead of warmth, she shows edge. Instead of leaning in, she pushes emotionally, verbally, sometimes energetically. This doesn't mean she lost interest. It means she's trying to kill the feeling before it grows further. But here's where the distinction becomes critical. There is a massive difference between playful sharpness and true disrespect, and most men can't tell the difference. Playful sharpness still carries energy. There's engagement, timing, selectivity. She teases you. Not everyone. She reacts to your presence differently than to others. Disrespect, on the other hand, is flat. It lacks curiosity. It lacks emotional charge. Playful sharpness is attraction with armor. Disrespect is indifference. When she's fighting her feelings, the sharpness usually appears only with you because you are the trigger. And this is exactly where men fail their own frame. Some men respond by seeking approval. They soften, over-explain, apologize unnecessarily, try to win back warmth. Others respond with ego. They snap back, withdraw dramatically, go cold to teach her a lesson. Both reactions come from the same place, a man who lost his center. Here's the red line you must never cross. The moment you sacrifice self-respect, attraction dies instantly. Not slowly, not later, immediately. Because now she doesn't just feel attraction, she feels power. And power kills polarity. But there's another mistake just as fatal. Men who confuse stoicism with emotional punishment, they go silent. They disappear abruptly. They withdraw with resentment. Not calm. That's not strength. That's wounded ego disguised as discipline. And women feel that instantly. True masculine control is not reactive. It doesn't chase, but it also doesn't vanish. This is the paradox most men don't understand. When she gets mean, she's testing emotional stability, not tolerance. She wants to see if you remain grounded when her energy destabilizes. She wants to know if your frame collapses under pressure. Because if you can't hold yourself steady here, you won't be able to hold a relationship later. A centered man doesn't reward disrespect, but he also doesn't flinch at emotional turbulence. He stays calm, consistent, detached, but present. He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't demand clarity. He doesn't ask her to define what she feels. And most importantly, he doesn't try to correct her emotions. He lets them exist without letting them control him. This is where the power silently shifts. Because now, she's the one reacting. Her sharpness no longer creates movement in you. Her edge no longer pulls you off balance. And when her defense mechanism stops working, it collapses. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Her mean phase only works on men who need validation. Once that need disappears, the mask falls. And what replaces it is either surrender or distance. Both outcomes are a win, because now the decision is no longer hers alone. This is the frame shift that separates boys from men. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are observing whether she is capable of meeting you without self-sabotage. That's strength. That's leadership. And that's why this phase feels so dangerous, because it demands self-mastery, not tactics. In the next chapter, we'll break down the exact mistakes men make at this stage, the ones that quietly kill attraction even when desire is already there. Because most men don't lose her because she didn't want them. They lose her because they reacted emotionally at the exact moment they needed to remain still. This is where most men don't just lose the woman. They lose their position. By the time a woman is fighting her feelings, attraction already exists. The danger is no longer creating attraction. The danger is how you respond to emotional resistance. And here's the brutal truth. Most men sabotage themselves at this stage, not because they don't care, but because they care without center. Let's break down the 4 most common mistakes that silently kill desire, even when she wants you. Mistake 1. Chasing clarity. This is the most instinctive mistake. She pulls back. She becomes inconsistent. She gets sharp or distant. And the man thinks, I just need to talk to her. I just need to clear things up. I just need to know where I stand. So he asks questions she cannot answer. What are we? Why are you acting like this? Do you even like me? Here's the problem. Clarity is logical. Attraction is emotional. When a woman is fighting her feelings, she doesn't have clarity herself. So when you demand it from her, you create pressure, not safety. And pressure triggers withdrawal. You're not asking for truth. You're asking her to confront emotions she's actively avoiding. That never ends well. Strong men don't interrogate emotions. They observe behavior, and they let patterns reveal the truth over time. Mistake 2. Confession at the wrong time. This one destroys attraction faster than almost anything else. Men mistake honesty for timing. They think confessing feelings will relieve tension. That vulnerability will invite vulnerability. But when she's still resisting, Your confession does one of two things. 1. It overwhelms her defenses. 2. Or it hands her emotional control. Either way, polarity collapses. She now becomes the emotional authority. You become the one waiting for a response. And desire cannot grow where power imbalance exists. Here's the paradox most men miss. A woman opens emotionally after she feels safe, not because you demand emotional reciprocity. Confessing too early doesn't make you brave. It makes you emotionally dependent. Mistake 3. Over-availability, disguised as patience. This one is subtle. You tell yourself you're being understanding, supportive, patient, but your behavior says something else. You respond instantly. You always adjust your schedule. You're always available, even when she isn't. And what you think is consistency, she feels as pressure. Because now she knows you're here no matter how I treat you. And once a woman feels that certainty before commitment, attraction erodes. Not because she's cruel, but because desire requires tension, not guarantees. A grounded man has a full life, presence, not pursuit. Mistake 4. Cold walk away, fueled by ego. This is the opposite extreme. She pulls back. She gets sharp. And instead of chasing, the man disappears. Not calmly, not consciously, but emotionally. He withdraws to punish, to regain control, to protect his pride. This isn't stoicism. This is reactivity wearing a masculine mask. And women can feel the difference immediately. True detachment is calm. Ego withdrawal is loud, even in silence. If you walk away because you lost emotional control, you didn't win power. You just exited the frame. The core truth most men avoid, both chasing and disappearing, come from the same place: a man without center. One reacts by leaning in. The other reacts by cutting off. But both are reactions. And reaction is weakness. A centered man doesn't force connection, and he doesn't flee discomfort. He stays. Not physically, not emotionally. Internally, he remains calm while the storm passes. Because he understands something most men don't. Attraction doesn't need fixing. It needs space to resolve itself. And only a man who is grounded can hold that space without collapsing or controlling. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the Stoic response, the exact psychological posture that keeps attraction alive, restores polarity, and allows her to stop fighting her feelings on her own. Because the strongest move is not action, it's emotional stillness under pressure. At this point, most men are still asking the wrong question. They ask, "What should I do to make her choose me?" A Stoic man asks something very different. Does her behavior deserve my continued investment? This is where the frame shifts completely. The Stoic response is not a tactic. It's not a trick. It's not emotional suppression. It is emotional mastery. It's how a man remains calm, consistent, and present without chasing, without disappearing, and without needing validation. Let's break it down. 1. Calm emotional stability is magnetic. When a woman is fighting her feelings, her internal world is chaotic. Fear, desire, resistance, attachment. If you mirror that chaos, attraction dies. The Stoic man does the opposite. He stays calm, not because he doesn't care, but because he is not ruled by emotion. He doesn't react to hot and cold behavior. He doesn't panic when she pulls back. He doesn't spike excitement when she leans in. His nervous system stays regulated, and that calm does something powerful to her psychology. It becomes a safe emotional anchor. She may not understand it consciously, but she feels it. Around him, emotions slow down. Around him, pressure dissolves. And safety is what allows desire to stop fighting itself. 2. Consistent, not predictable. But reliable consistency does not mean availability. This is where many men misunderstand. Consistency means your tone doesn't change, your energy doesn't fluctuate, your self-respect stays intact. Whether she's warm or distant, you show up as the same grounded man. You don't reward withdrawal with chasing. You don't punish distance with silence. You simply remain steady. This steadiness sends a quiet message. I'm not here to win you. I'm here to see who you are. And that flips the dynamic. She stops feeling hunted. She starts feeling evaluated. 3. Detached. But present, this is the hardest part for most men. Detachment doesn't mean emotional absence. It means outcome independence. You enjoy her presence, but you don't need it. You like her, but you don't cling to her. You're open, but not attached to an outcome. You're present when you're together, focused, engaged. But when you're apart, you don't linger emotionally. Your life continues. Your purpose stays primary. This creates polarity, because desire grows when a woman feels I'm choosing him, not being pulled into him. 4. No chasing, no vanishing. This is the Stoic middle path. You don't chase when she pulls away, but you don't disappear to regain power. You allow space without resentment. And when you reappear, you bring value, not validation, not questions, not emotional pressure. Value, a thought, a shared laugh, a grounded presence. This teaches her subconscious something critical. When he's around, I feel good. When he's gone, I notice his absence. That's not manipulation. That's emotional clarity forming naturally. The core frame shift. Here is the frame that changes everything. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are observing. You are deciding whether she is emotionally mature enough to step into your life. This removes desperation. This removes fear. And paradoxically, it allows her feelings to surface. Because now, she is the one at risk of loss. And that brings us to the final psychological trigger. In the next chapter, we'll talk about loss aversion, the moment her fear of losing you becomes stronger than her fear of feeling. That's the moment resistance ends, not because you forced it, but because you stayed centered long enough for truth to reveal itself. Up until now, everything you've seen has been driven by one force: fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of emotional loss, fear of surrendering control. As long as fear dominates her inner world, she can continue fighting what she feels, no matter how strong those feelings are. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men don't want to accept. A woman can desire you deeply and still choose distance, if distance feels safer than commitment, as long as she believes you will remain emotionally available, waiting, hoping, adapting to her pace. There is no urgency for her to change. She can delay. She can hesitate. She can stay confused, because there is no cost. The human mind does not evolve without consequence, and attraction does not crystallize without risk. This is where loss aversion enters the picture. Loss aversion is a fundamental psychological principle. Humans are wired to experience the pain of losing something far more intensely than the pleasure of gaining something new. As long as she believes you are guaranteed, her brain stays comfortable. Comfort preserves indecision. But the moment she senses that you are no longer emotionally guaranteed, not because you withdrew in anger, but because your life genuinely moved forward, something inside her shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. She begins to notice small changes. You're still kind but less centered on her reactions. Still present but no longer anchored to her availability. Still interested but clearly grounded in your own direction. Your energy feels fuller, not colder, not distant, just complete. And that subtle shift triggers something powerful in her subconscious. For the first time, she feels uncertainty not about her feelings, but about her position in your life. A new question forms beneath her awareness. What if I actually lose him? That question carries weight. Because now, hesitation has a cost. Before, intimacy felt dangerous. Now, distance does. Before, opening up risked pain. Now, staying closed risks loss. This is the moment where the internal battle changes sides. Fear no longer protects her. It threatens her. And here's where most men fail catastrophically. They sense the shift. They feel her leaning in. They notice her becoming warmer, more attentive, more emotionally present. And they rush in. They ask for clarity. They seek reassurance. They confess feelings. They try to lock it down. In doing so, they remove the very tension that was forcing her truth to surface. A Stoic man does not interfere. He understands something most men never learn. You cannot force emotional surrender. You must allow it. He remains steady. He does not pull away dramatically. He does not punish her with silence. He does not escalate emotionally to speed up the outcome. He simply continues living his life fully, independently, unapologetically. He invests in his purpose, his growth, his direction, and, paradoxically, this is what makes him most attractive. Because now, her brain faces a choice it can no longer avoid. Either step forward emotionally or accept the reality of losing access to him. This is loss aversion at work. Not manipulation, not games. Reality. And when reality becomes unavoidable, clarity follows. This is the stage where resistance collapses. Not because she was convinced, not because she was pressured, but because staying undecided now feels more painful than being honest. That's when her behavior changes. She becomes more direct, more open, more emotionally grounded. She stops testing, stops pulling away, stops hiding behind sarcasm or inconsistency. Not because you won her, but because the inner conflict has resolved. And here's the final truth, the one that